Hey, thanks for checking out The Solid Verbal. Now would be a great time to subscribe to the channel for college football content all off season long.
Arkansas, I feel like, is probably easier to diagnose than Mizzou, but I want to hear it from you.
So I've been on the record with this that Arkansas is college football. The chaotic nature of Arkansas's recent and overall history and the star power and the teams that they play, the major teams that they play. I just think the most college football team is the Arkansas Razorbacks. So I'm thrilled to talk about them as they hope to just find more consistency, because the best of Arkansas the past decade or so has been sensational. The best of Bobby Petrino with all those receivers. What do you know about Greg Childs?
Oh, yeah.
What do you know about Jarius Wright?
Yeah.
Right? What do you know about, what's his name?
I loved Jarius Wright.
Sure. So they have all these guys on both sides of the ball. They have star power there, right? Tyler Wilson at quarterback, Ryan Mallett, and now they have more star power at quarterback now. And he's been the starter the past couple of years than KJ Jefferson. Arkansas, to me, big picture, is a program that is capable of winning a bunch of games when they are approaching things with a very specific vision. It doesn't necessarily mean system, but that has helped, right? The best of the Bobby Petrino era is airing the ball out with big-armed quarterbacks and, recruiting to a system, finding those receivers, and succeeding. The more recent, the more micro is, and this is the least groundbreaking thing I could possibly say, when Arkansas has a defense, they win. When Arkansas has a defense, they win. And so even with those high-flying teams way back when, the defense is pretty good. The other thing that is pretty crucial, just in terms of Arkansas being in that 7, 8, 9 win range and going to a pretty good bowl game, perhaps on New Year's Day, it really helps if one of those teams, one of the other teams in the SEC West, is abysmal, right? It helps when 3 teams are pretty disappointing. You look back at, I think it was 2011. You have an incredible Alabama and LSU situation where they played the rerun national championship game and just filled those rosters filled with NFL players.
Yeah.
That's the year after Cam Newton at Auburn. They sink like a stone, right? They become a 500 team after winning the national championship. Mississippi State is pretty bad. Ole Miss and Houston Nutt's 4th season is atrocious. They are extremely bad at football. That helps. That Arkansas is able to pad maybe, and look, Arkansas I think won 11 games that year. They won 11-2. That Arkansas can be an 8 or 9-ish win type team, but they play terrible programs and beat them easily. That helps for a team like Arkansas that doesn't have the slimmest margin for error, right? Location-wise, there's talent in state. They're right there with Texas. They, can recruit in the SEC. I think where Arkansas stands right now, hopefully, is in a pretty good place to get back to that point. Now, I don't see a team in the SEC West as being catastrophically bad, which I think hurts their chances sometimes to get that 8-9 win level, to get to that level. But with how the team is built, with how active the team is in the portal, with the idea that, if nothing else, Sam Pittman is going to recruit and develop offensive linemen. Didn't at all times last year, but they were really promising in 2021. That is, in theory, when I say, how is Arkansas going to win? You are going to say, the hope is, the goal is, the vision is, they're going to bludgeon teams to death up front on offense, right? They are going to wear teams down, and they're going to make smart decisions. Obviously, I think we were both fans at the time of where he went with his coordinators in terms of scheme and, on-field results. Now, changes out both of them in this offseason. Travis Williams coming in from UCF and Dan Enos coming in from, you name it. Dan Enos has been there. I think Arkansas is in a really good place. That said, I am going to go back and I'm going to say it kind of depends on where Auburn is under Hugh Freeze, where Mississippi State goes, where Ole Miss goes, where Texas A&M goes, because Arkansas finds themselves, or at least found themselves last year, in those 50-50 games that come down to 1 to 3 mistakes or 1 to 3 miscalculations that takes away the possibility of them winning 8 games. Whether it's, the catastrophic scoop and score against A&M and coupled with a doink at the end. You look at a lack of aggression or a lack of success in short yardage moments against Mizzou, which I'm sure you'll talk about as well in there. Yeah. I think it was a 2-point loss.
Yep.
Those types of moments have come to define, and you had the weird icy weather game where did the Arkansas grounds crew accidentally water an icy field? Was that a thing that I'm remembering correctly?
That. We talked about that, I think, in one of our fantasy things episodes.
Yeah, it was something, or a year-end recap thing.
One of the all-time great.
Yeah, that was like a 14-12 game where Harold Perkins just filled up the back of a baseball card. That was, so there's those moments where Arkansas seems to, every year, find something incredible. Recently, it's been KJ Jefferson. A couple years ago, Treylon Burks' offensive line, some defensive star power. Last year, it's, Rocket Sanders emerges. Drew Sanders on the other side of the ball emerges as an all-SEC first-team linebacker. But then they can't stop anything else. Then the secondary is awful. Then the offensive line gives up a ton of pressure and sacks in huge moments like they did against Mizzou. That everything hasn't been coming together reasonably well at the same time. And that's when you rely on getting every third down call correct, getting every red zone call correct, and not being able to weather one just randomly awful play like an 82-yard scoop and score like they had against Texas A&M. Right. All in all, I like Arkansas's aggression in the portal. Once again, they've done that, especially along the defensive line and in the secondary. Very much needed after we saw some weaknesses last year. They have two apparent quarterbacks of the future after KJ Jefferson exhausts his eligibility. I like seeing that. And I think Sam Pittman's a good recruiter. Right now, I like Sam Pittman and his upside more than I like a number of coaches, even in that same conference or division. I have not waned from my enthusiasm about Sam Pittman. So if you're asking me today, do you see realistically that Arkansas can win 8 games provided they hit on some more 50-50 decisions and moments and, continue to develop guys, continue to be aggressive in the portal? I saw they just brought in, I think, one of the top tight ends in the portal from North Texas. My answer is yes. I think there are more universes than not that if you simulate the next 3 seasons, that they win 8 games. I really am that high on Arkansas because I think Sam Pittman resonates on the trail, resonates in his locker room, and resonates in the assistant hiring world. So I'm just up on Arkansas right now with looking at the division, looking at the conference, and looking at Sam Pittman in general. So that's my takeaway.
And looking at the schedule.
Yeah.
If you look at the schedule, at least in the immediate short term, there's a reason that Vegas set the win total at 7.5. I look at the schedule and I say, well, of course it's going to be tough when you're on the road at LSU and at Alabama,
right?
At Ole Miss, and then home against Texas A&M. By the way, those are games back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama. That's really, though, the meat of the schedule. The deeper you get into this thing, at Florida, look, nobody wants to play at Florida. It's a very, very loud stadium. But who knows what state that program will be in. Auburn, still in a bit of disarray. I think they'll be improved, but that feels like it could be a winnable game. There's a game against FIU. There's the battle line rivalry to close out the year against Mizzou. We'll talk about Mizzou momentarily. Those are winnable games if you're Arkansas. So I feel pretty bullish about that 7.5.
The difference, the difference is, sorry to interrupt, but I think it's related, is we've had this conversation before about Arkansas. We've had this conversation like last year, they hit the portal hard. We're like, okay, Arkansas is seeing its deficiencies. They were beat up in the secondary the year before that, and I guess 21, and they really were not able to sustain at all on defense over the course of the year. And, they bring in like Dwight McGlothern, LSU transfer. They bring in these guys, and there's that like spring, summer hope, and you're like, oh, well, I guess there's a reason why this guy was in the portal. Oh, I guess this guy couldn't crack it too deep at a similar place. There's a reason, or couldn't get on the field, whatever. It's one thing to say, I like that they've hit the portal, but Arkansas has hit the portal before. And so it's just like, why is this year's Arkansas situation different than last year's Arkansas situation? That's what I'm monitoring right now, coupled with, hey, look, it's a bunch of new receivers once again, and a new offensive coordinator. And just like, how much new can KJ Jefferson take?
No.
That's the concern.
That's right. And they were really bad against pass last year.
Yeah, terrible.
Really bad against the pass last year, and they need to solve that. You can't put it all on KJ Jefferson, on the offense, on whatever, on just one side of the ball. That's not going to work in the SEC and be sustainable if we're talking about sustainably, again, getting to that 8-win plateau. Hopefully not a plateau, but the 8-win level. You need to be a little bit more well-rounded than that.
Agree. Yeah, it would be just like Arkansas to solve defense and have an offense that doesn't make sense this year, and they open up too many games going 3 and out for 3 straight drives and either claw their way back for a comeback win in a shootout type situation. Look, they have one of the... I'm still such a KJ Jefferson believer. I think the best of KJ Jefferson is one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the nation. I really am that sold on his raw ability, as a dual threat, as a big-armed guy. I don't know. There's just too much change and chaos, it seems, around him. That's what worries me.